All right. I'm so excited to have Zikki Munyao on the We Rise podcast today. Zikki, thanks so much for joining. I'm just delighted to be able to introduce you and your amazing work with listeners. So thanks so much for joining.
Thank you so much, Christine, for having me on your show.
Yeah. So you have such a beautiful story and the way that you share about yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your story. How are you engaged with community?
Yeah, so I come from a point of service. Everything from being raised in Kenya. I was in the Cub Scouts as a kid in primary school. I was a prefect in high school, which kind of gave me responsibility over the students. I was a soldier when I came to the US with the US Army. I have been through UVA and, kind of worked with different groups in there. And now I'm a philanthropist and I'm artist. And, over the years, all that has come with a lot of lessons. So, it's been something of a journey that I'm looking forward to sharing more about.
You just summarized a whole lifetime in very few words. That was pretty amazing.
It's a lot.
That was pretty amazing. Unpack that just a little bit more. What took you from Kenya to the US Army to the University of Virginia? Tell us a little bit more about what that trajectory looked like.
Yes. So I'm born and raised in Kenya.
Mhm,
So I left Kenya after doing primary and secondary school, living with a very big family. I come
mm,
from a family that has polygamous,
mhm,
members, and
mhm,
we are pretty big but very
mhm,
close. So moved to the U.S. in 1998 to do college, and I'd won a green card, which gave me the ability to do everything but vote. So because of it, I was not that interested in school. I didn't have the discipline or structure to kind of be disciplined enough to go to school. And I dropped out of school like within a few months of even getting here. So I joined the military, and the
mhm.
military was a childhood dream of mine. And I wanted to pursue that dream, but within that dream was another of truck driving. I'd been
Oh,
driving tractor
interesting.
trailer
Yeah.
since I was 14 years old. So I've had a driver's license since I was 14. And I'd been driving tractor trailers,
Wow.
tractors, and all that. Like heavy equipment was my thing. So when I joined the military, I started off like, hey, like maybe I want to do truck driving. And they're like, yes, we could use truck drivers. So they gave me the biggest truck you can think of in the military. So I drove this thing called the HET, which stands for um, heavy equipment transporter,
Mhm,
right? And this
mhm.
thing has 48 tires and carries M1 Abrams, the big tanks. And I even have a plaque, you know, because I loved it so much. My sergeant saw that and they gave me a plaque when I was leaving the platoon. But anyway, for 3 years and 2 months, I served my 3 year service
Mhm,
with the U.S. Army,
mhm.
and I got out in 2002,
Okay.
where then I was trying to figure out what to do in the civilian world because now I have this discipline, I have this structure. So I then
Interesting.
went back to school in 2003. Did some community college just to see if I'm able to do this. Went through that successfully within a year. I was at UVA. I
Mhm,
transferred over to UVA with an
mhm,
associate's degree because education just seemed to flow well at that point.
mhm.
And I got my undergraduate degree from the University of Virginia in English language and literature, and then moved on to a role in consulting. So I work with a consulting boutique firm out of DC where we're implementing systems for places like the National Institutes of Health, and then went on to GE. And just before going to GE, finished a master's in the management of information technology, also at
Okay.
UVA.
Interesting.
Uh, and then from there, have been doing data analytics in healthcare, especially in the oncology space.
Mhm.
But within the same time frame, I got to understand philanthropy. We started a nonprofit here called Seville Gives, which basically brings the community together through happy hours,
Mhm.
where that kind of comfort of being around people in a very free environment allows for them to listen to nonprofits in Charlottesville, and then they become members of Seville Gives, and the membership dollars that we raised, it was $200 per person, 250 or 350 for a couple. We'd raise money from this membership. And at the end of the calendar year or the calendar year for the nonprofit, give 100% of it to the
Mhm.
groups that we determined by the group that this money should go impact. And we were raising average over $20,000 per year.
Wow.
And I was like, you know what? This is going somewhere. So that's
Mm-hmm.
what's led me then to where we are today with Just Help Africa. And, living in Charlottesville, this is our home in the US. And
Mm-hmm.
then we also do some farming in Kenya. So we spent time in Kenya and here in the US.
Amazing. Oh, there's so much amazingness in what you just shared. I want to come back to farming in Kenya in just a little bit and to hear if you're close to where your family is and a little bit more about that connection. But Ziki, first, I want to go back to what you talked about, discipline. That's not something that you hear a lot of people talk about, a conscious decision at a certain point in life to become more disciplined or engaged with something. It's something that most people have to utilize at some point in some way. But what did that look like at that kind of tender age? You've been driving since you were 14. You
Mhm.
decided that you needed to buckle down in some way. What led you to that? And what did that look like for you? That tenacity, if you will.
Yeah, I think from a young age, I was always fairly disciplined because, as I mentioned, I was in the Cub Scouts. I was a leader in my classroom. I was leaders in teams. However, moving to the US, I had this freedom to do whatever I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And my decisions were very off. Like I just wanted to go party and have a good time,
Mm-hmm.
never go to class. Like the priority was not there. So I knew I needed some discipline and I was not in a position to say, I am going to find a specialist who's going to help me find this discipline. I was like, there has to be a way
Mm-hmm.
I can get this discipline because if I get it, then I will simplify a lot of the things I do with my life moving forward. So I was like, if I was going to make a chance to make this change, it had to be that time. So
Mm-hmm.
when I sat down with the recruiter, I was like, I don't know what I want to do, but I know I want to join the military because I'll come out
Mm-hmm.
of it with some discipline and it's something I've wanted to
Mm-hmm.
do. There I was. I joined
Yeah.
the military.
Yeah.
And by the time I finished basic training, I can tell you I had a lot of structure and discipline.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I imagine so. So
Yeah.
you had clarity that you knew this was a path that you wanted to take to some degree for an outcome. And you've continued to do that in different ways. So tell us more about farming in Kenya, what that looks
Yeah.
like now, where, and then tell us a little bit more about Just Help Africa. We're going to get into your beautiful art as well, but tell us a
Right.
little bit more about what you're up to in those two arenas.
Yeah. So Kenya and then just South Africa.
Mhm.
Farming is one of those things you get into if you're looking to gamble,
Mm. Right.
right? It's kind
Yeah.
of like one of those things you either stay with it long term or you just don't get into it if you know what you're getting yourself into. So we've been at this now for 3 years
Hmm.
and like deeply into farming for 3 years. We've been farming as a joke, like, oh, we have mangoes, January, we're going to
Hmm.
sell some mangoes, but we
Hmm.
just planted those and they kind of work on their own on our land. This is family land
Hmm.
that I have my
Hmm.
home in, but we've bought now like literal our own farm where we farm
Hmm.
onions.
Yeah.
That farm has been a labor of love,
Mm.
right? That farm, clearing it, planting the onions. We started off with garlic, which failed miserably,
Hmm. Mhm.
right? The lessons learned from that allow almost like the lessons you need in life to wake you up. It's kind of like a really hard slap on your face to get things right every single time when it comes to farming. But then there's things that you can't control. You can't control the weather. You can't control pests. You can't control weeds. These are things that you have to learn from the experience. And that's what farming has taught us. But now in year 3, because we've learned all these things over the years, we feel that now the profits are things that we can realize because we know the process,
Mhm.
right? So it's
Mhm.
been a labor of love, and I would tell anybody who's getting into farming, give yourself like up to 5 years to
Yeah.
get what's happening because it's
Mhm.
not just something that you start and you're instantly profitable. It's a process of learning.
Mhm.
So that's the farming. Any questions around that before I go into just help?
Well, who's the we behind the
Yeah.
farming? And I'd love to hear some of the lessons learned you talked about to wake you up. And I know we'll come back to Just Help Africa,
Yeah.
but
So
yeah.
the we is my wife, Ruth.
Mhm.
My wife and I have been married for about 21 years, and our son
Congratulations.
Remy, thank you.
Mhm.
Our son Remy, he's turning 13 next Monday.
Mhm. That's
So
awesome.
he has chicken on the farm,
Uh-huh.
right? So he's busy with those. Like he's
Uh-huh.
named every single chicken there is.
I love
And
that.
then Ruth is the one that runs the farm. So she
Okay.
can tell you the
Mm-hmm.
stories around it. And the
Mm.
biggest story we can tell you around that farm, or there's two actually. The first is we started off this farm as a garlic farm. We wanted to grow garlic because it does very well in those conditions, especially the way it was written down for us. The way it was prescribed to us was like, oh, this
Perfect.
makes sense. Like
Uh-huh.
we can do this with our eyes closed, right? Like they give us the seeds, we grow the seeds, we sell them, make some money. Makes it sounded very straightforward. When we planted the garlic is very temperamental. Like any small change in conditions, the garlic does not do well. And the
Mm-hmm.
first thing that we realized right away is because this was the first time farming on this land in many years after we purchased it and cleared it, the soil was very, very rich.
Mm-hmm.
So when you plant the garlic in there, the weeds that grew around the garlic was ridiculous. So
Mm-hmm.
every single
Mm-hmm.
week we had like a whole village in there like weeding the farm.
Right.
So
The
the
plants are ready to
extent,
grow. Mm-hmm.
yes. So the nutrients that was to go to the garlic were depleted over the time that the weeds were kind of competing for the same nutrients. So that
Mm-hmm.
was number one. And then that impacted the sales. So we didn't have any sales the first time. And then the second time we grew the garlic, we took care of the weeds with some herbicide at the beginning at planting. But then on the back end, somebody came and sprayed something at the end that killed it because they kind of added too much of the fertilizer that was supposed to go into the garlic
Mm-hmm.
and essentially killed our whole harvest.
And there it went.
So, and that was it. So, we decided that garlic was just too expensive. So then we transitioned over to onions, which, we knew those ones would do better. And they've been doing well. But then we plant the onions, we take care of the weeding, we take care of the watering, we get to harvest. And as we harvest, and the market is doing great, as soon as we take it to the market, the same week, foreign onions had been brought in from Tanzania,
No way.
flooded the Kenya market,
No
and took the
way.
price from $2 a kilo down to 30 cents. So now we have the best onions, but the market killed it,
Which is the way farming goes. You
which is the
plan,
way farming
you
goes.
adapt, you do the best you can, and then something like an out of region onion comes in and sweeps the bottom out of the market. So what'd you
Yeah.
do then? What have you continued to do with the farm since that time?
So what we started doing is we started working with hotels and started working with like different buyers. Even the local markets started becoming like an attractive place to sell these onions. So what we did then is we stored the onions for like 3 months. Some people prefer their onions drier. So we dried them. We built a storage facility to hold the onions and then we're able to sell them slowly, like gradually to the markets.
Mhm.
And we sold that entire harvest, which was pretty significant, right?
Okay.
And then now, as we planted, we're hoping to harvest before the Tanzania onions come in and flood the market again. So now we're anticipating
You're
it.
planning for it. Right.
Yeah. So we planted a little bit off the schedule because we're irrigating. So we don't have to wait for rain, which, by the
Mhm.
way, right now it's raining like crazy.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
that lessens our
Mhm.
irrigation bill.
Mhm.
But now we're hoping that by next month, the onion harvest will be in place where we can actually make some money
Okay.
before the June dump of the onions from Tanzania. Yeah,
Wild. So you're learning, you're iterating. So onions
yeah,
are still the primary thing that the farm is growing.
they are. We have bananas, sugarcane, papaya. We have peppers. We have many things on that farm, but the primary cash crop on that farm is onions. And we every time we harvest, we kind of cover crop it with like corn, beans, peas, sunflower. We
Very cool.
keep it fresh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love it. I love it. So tell
yeah.
us about Just Help Africa. Tell us more about why, how it got started, and what you're up to with Just Help Africa today.
Yeah, so why? We just want to help
Mm-hmm.
communities in Africa in education and clean water.
Mm-hmm.
So we started this organization back in May of 2022,
Mm-hmm.
when Tunji Shoroye, who's the founder of Just Help Africa, and I was sitting at the Common House, which is kind of like the co-working space that you and I usually frequent.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me about his story about how he used to get cholera and waterborne diseases all the time because he had to walk every morning. He had to wake up at 1 a.m. to walk for many kilometers just to find where the water is, fetch the water, and walk back all the way home to then provide this water so his family can have water to drink and use. Then he runs to school. And in between, if he drank any of the water, then he would have to battle some of these diseases. And he's
Mm,
like, I mean, look at us now. We're able to kind of say we can shower with hot water every day. We can drink water directly from the tap. However, most communities of where he and I are from don't have access to clean water. And I was like, man, like I've been looking at this problem from the education perspective, and we kind of have the same problem, but yours sounds worse because people get sick all the time. And, in some cases, kids don't survive these types of
mhm,
diseases. So he was like, I need to do something about it. So I'm going to start a company that's going to be able to kind of do the work in Africa. So
mhm,
what do you think? I'm like, well, I think the company should be a nonprofit. So we started Just Help Africa as a 501c3 nonprofit based out of Charlottesville, Virginia, to
mhm,
provide clean water and education in Kenya and Nigeria. And the reason we started with those two is because I'm from Kenya natively, and Tunji is born and raised in Nigeria.
mhm,
We went ahead, started it, and then started raising money right away. And by January 2023, we had dug and went to Nigeria to launch our first well that serves now a community of about 7 to 10,000 people.
mm. Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. And a very large number of people.
Yes, and then in 2024, we built out a laboratory for the school that we co-founded in Kenya, and
Mhm,
we went and launched that with Tunji on the ground in Kenya.
mhm,
And then from that, we then traveled over to Nigeria, where we launched our second well, which also provides clean water to 7 10,000 people,
wow,
and rebuilt two classrooms in a school of 600 that if you will be adding some photos to our website,
mhm,
you can see the aerial view of this school and how, kind of like terrible in shape it is. And we were able to go in there, launch those two classrooms, and then go to the well site, also launch that in those classrooms. And the beauty of all this is that all our donors are here in Charlottesville.
mhm,
So, it kind of it's a testament on how powerful, this organization can create impact by having the people who have a little to spare, creating such a big impact now to 20,000 people in sub-Saharan Africa just in 2 years,
amazing.
right? So we find that fascinating. And last week we just had a dinner for our donors, and we had 70 people show up for
Mm,
this dinner.
mm,
And at the
amazing.
dinner, we provided dinner was catered, with drinks and everything. And what we did is we told the story of where the money that they donated last year
Mhm,
went.
mhm,
And the entire night was all about that. It wasn't asking for donations. It was more like, we don't get paid for any of this. Tunji and I, and now Eze, who's a very good photographer here in town, that
mhm,
also is part of our team.
mhm.
We told this story with photos, video, and just kind of letting the crowd understand how far their dollars go
Mhm.
in the work that we're doing. And we
I
found
love
that
that.
very, very impactful and fun.
Yeah. So you're using the power of storytelling. You're not trying to solve everything. It sounds like you're not trying to serve initially every community in Nigeria and in Kenya, but you're starting in one community, 7 to 10,000 people. You're going to a second community, 7 to 10,000 people. But you're
Yes.
also not waiting for conditions to be perfect
Right.
necessarily for to have 1,000 donors. You're starting small and you're building successes, and then you're celebrating those people who are helping to create change. And I love that you talked about it being fun, and you're
Yes.
making tremendous difference in many people's lives and having a good time at doing it. And it's obvious you and Tunji are having a good time doing it, and I've seen you speak before, and it feels good to be part of it. It feels like, yes, I want to be part of this thing because it feels good. Can you talk a little bit about what it's been like to work with people in those communities? How do you find the communities, and is it a partnering with? How do you identify which community to work with initially?
Yeah. So in Kenya, the school that we founded is just 2 kilometers from my farm.
Hmm.
So that one was simple
You
because we
know.
co-founded it. I was like, this school, we need to build it to where, because it's a girls' school. So this school
Mhm,
actually has a story of its own that I can
mm,
save for later. But this girls' school is the first girls' school that provides education, higher education in terms of high school for girls within a 30-kilometer radius.
okay.
Right. So like if the school was not there, all the girls that go to this school will not have a high school education because they can't afford to leave, or the families can't afford any of that.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
thanks to Just Help Africa even building this lab, three of these girls were able to go compete in a national robotics Olympiad in Nairobi, Kenya, national,
Hmm.
and they won it.
Amazing.
And then they went on to kind of represent the country in Istanbul, Turkey, right? So that one was pretty straightforward because it's right there next to our home, and we can monitor everything because we're not getting paid. We identified that one because we can, if we're given $10, we know that the head teacher at that school can take that $10 and should explain to us exactly where it's going. So there's a direct impact. So there's no middleman here. It's donor to head teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just the funnel that kind of makes that
Hmm.
work, right?
Hmm.
In Nigeria, it's slightly different. In Nigeria, we have a team, and this team are folks that know Tunji from when they were growing up, right?
Hmm.
And they go scout for a place that has the worst of conditions in the
Hmm.
rural parts of Nigeria. We choose spots that are somewhat around that Ibadan area. So Ibadan is slightly north of Lagos,
Hmm.
and where we go is a total surprise, right? Because of many, many issues. But we just want to go in there and just do the work and provide the impact to the community. Let them know that this is their responsibility and it's not created by, say, the local government. So they need to take care of these resources. And every 3 months, this same team goes back to make sure that everything is still working according to the way we built it.
Hmm.
And some of these wells, we dig them pretty deep in order for them to last at least 20 years. So we do have a contractor on the ground in Nigeria that works with us directly to do the digging. So that's why we surprise the communities in Nigeria.
Yeah. Neat.
But we, for some of the schools, we want to make sure once we start a project, like if we build 2 classrooms and there's 6 classrooms left, if we can raise the money to finish those 6 classrooms, then we'll be done with that school once those 6 classrooms are done and the school now has like an entirety of
Hmm.
the school to work with before now we move to a different community. And the same
Hmm.
team on the ground is the one that scouts that.
I love that. So at the end, as you know, I'll ask you to share more, but just since we're in the midst of the conversation, how can people get involved in Just Help Africa and learn more? And then I want to come back to you and your own story a little bit
Yeah,
more.
for sure. So justhelpafrica.org,
Hmm.
uh, that's the website. We'll be adding more information to this website right now. You can go in there, get the gist of who the team is, who we are, how you can donate, and how you can contact us. But very soon we'll have the newsletter up there. We'll have photos that we shared in our dinner last week, which were professionally taken by Eze Amos, who's again part of our team. And we'll be sharing more as it happens. This year we're going to go to Kenya and we're going to go to Nigeria. And we're going to share more about that. And everything again for Just Help Africa is on justhelpafrica.org.
Great. Thank you. So we'll include those links in the episode webpage and on the YouTube channel
Yeah.
as well. Eze is a longtime friend, and I love that he's officially working with you all as a,
Yeah.
part of the team now.
He's
So
great.
I want to come back to you and your own journey a little bit. So
Hmm.
you've had quite an arc, of ways that you've decided to intentionally take the trajectory of your life, and you've made some recent shifts as well. Tell me, Zikki, a little bit about what brings you joy.
Yeah.
And then I want to hear a little bit about when you yourself are experiencing struggle. What keeps you moving forward on those days that you struggle? So, kind of both sides of that
Yeah.
coin.
So joy for me comes from, I find joy just talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that lights me up hearing other people's stories.
Mm-hmm.
And, part of that is because I can see this person through their story.
Mm,
And that's why, even for my art, I tell people if we're doing a commission, I want to hear the whole story. So when I paint
yeah.
this thing, I can tell the story for you through the art. And that can last as your legacy, as part of your legacy, because it's
Mm,
your story and your story is unique. So each individual person to me is very interesting. I meet all types of people. I meet people on the street. I can sit down with someone on the street and sometimes even like get some cash on sitting over there thinking
mm-hmm.
that I'm also like, like asking for something, but literally I'm listening to this person's story, right? So everyone is important to me. That gives me joy, but also I get joy from spending time with my family,
Mm-hmm.
and giving to others. When you give to others, it gives you a fulfillment that makes you feel better. You may be having, like, there's a day I did not know like where I was gonna get cash. Like I was just
Mhm.
like in a tough place.
Mhm.
And there was this guy as a street light, and he had a sign up, he's a veteran, and you could see like this was probably his first day out there, and he's
Mhm.
just looking not well. And I'm like, man, I have nothing, but I had $10 in my pocket.
Mhm.
So I took the $10 and just gave it to him, and asked him, "Hey man, what happened?" And he's like, "Hey man, I don't know, just things just completely fell apart for me." And before the light turned green, he was like, "Man, you better have the best day of your life and stay blessed."
Mhm.
And when I got home, I was like, "Man, that guy just kind of blessed me." Like
Mhm.
somebody who's going through that. Well, I'm also kind of going through it in my own way.
Mhm.
It makes you feel good. So I draw joy from that.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yes. So there's that. But then what happens when you're going through a tough time,
Right.
right? That one, um, I have come to spiritually understand that the way you look at life depends on the way you look at yourself
Mm.
inside,
Mhm.
right? So I can't show up to anybody unless I can't show up anyone genuinely unless I fully understand myself,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So on a good day, on a bad day, I always start from within. And within that, even days where I'm not quite sure how I'm going to make it work, I positively believe that where I'm trying to land is the same place I'm shooting for,
Mm. Mhm.
right? And then that gives me the ideal path for that day.
Mhm.
And you'll find that in any given moment, I won't let anything kind of slow me down. Like I'll always kind of have a positive spin to anything, because if I think negatively, if I start slowing myself down, then it just kind of draws my energy away from where I need to be focused. So I try to keep my focus on where I'm trying to land.
Mhm.
And that always kind of keeps me uh, active and positive, even on the toughest days.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Beautiful.
yeah, I mean, it can get tough sometimes. I
Mhm.
don't show it, but like some of the communities we work in, pretty tough places to work in, right?
Mhm.
Some of the people
Mhm.
I deal with, pretty tough people to deal with. And some of the situations that you run into, even just here and there in this country, you're like, what?
Mhm.
Why? But
Mhm.
still deal with it and stay positive.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I want to ask a little bit more about. So I heard belief is a really key element of that.
Yeah.
Keeping your heart and your mind on that longer term trajectory about where you want to go. Where is the pathway of where you want to go? Recognizing that there is struggle, but maintaining a positive mindset. Belief is certainly something that I've heard time and time again is essential to where you want to go. And I 100% agree with you. But it isn't until the last few years that I've really, and you and I have spoken about mindfulness practice before, but it's just
Right.
been the last few years that I think I've really let myself feel the depth of feelings that I feel to go through them rather than, I wouldn't say toxic positivity before, but I think there have been some points in my life where I've said, okay, I'm just going to keep working. I'm just going to keep my nose to the grindstone. I'm going to keep going where I want to go without really letting myself feel the extent of feelings. And feelings themselves don't last that long. They're
Hmm.
30 to 90 seconds. But I think it's the story that we attach to that experience. And almost what I'm hearing you say is you're making a conscious choice to not attach to the story, but to experience what there is. You're working in some difficult situations, but to keep your focus on the longer term trajectory. Can you tell us what does that internal process look like for you when you recognize a really hard situation or moment or day? Are you feeling that? Are you going around it? I don't think you're going around it, but I think it's hard for people who are especially working in creating real change in communities and being authentic. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it does. I'm going through it right now.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
So like started a corporation, and just getting it off the ground is a daunting task.
Mhm.
Right? So like some days you wake up and you're like, am I really capable of doing this?
Yeah.
Like where is the money going to come
Yeah.
from? How do I
Yeah.
build
Right.
the confidence in somebody else to agree with my vision and drive that vision
Mm.
forward with their
Mhm.
funding? Right?
Right.
So you know that you're bringing people on board, but are you sure you're going to be able to pay them? Are you sure you're going to be able to kind of cater to their needs? Are you
Mhm.
sure that you are the person to lead this organization? Like it creates all this doubt in you. And you kind of have to come at it with like, this idea came to me because I'm the person suited for it.
Mhm.
I don't have all the
belief.
strengths. I never will have all the strengths, but I have the people who can bring it together. So I need to trust that the people who are going along this journey with me understand the vision of what I'm trying to put together. And by me always saying this vision and clearly articulating and just refining on it all the time, then everybody starts to see how they fit into this vision,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's a lot of moments of self-doubt in that. Like one day you wake up like sweating and you kind of have to live with that emotion. Like, why am I feeling this way? Like, why do I have to go through this? And you literally have to live with it. Like live through that feeling. It's almost like if you cut yourself with a knife when cutting, like
Mm-hmm.
some vegetables or something. Most times you kind of want to take your mind away from that pain. You kind of want to focus on something else so you don't see this pain. But I feel like if this is the example of how you deal with this situation, you almost want to focus on the pain,
Mm.
be with the pain, and the pain slowly will kind of slowly start going away because you've just focused on all the pain that you have. And in many ways, I feel like even I was listening to some gurus speaking about how your body reacts to how you look at it. Like if you
Mm.
understand your body well enough, you give your body the ability to even heal faster in
Mm-hmm.
situations like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not the guru. I'm just saying that,
Mm-hmm.
there's some science to this
Mm-hmm.
thing, even just kind of like the power in each individual to do something like that. So I started going deeper into it. I'm like, okay, fine. If I'm feeling this way, how how can I go deeper into it so that way if you're feeling fear, how do you turn that into energy that you could use? It's a different way of thinking, but I think each of us is equipped with that strength. You just gotta understand how to tap into it. And it makes you just a better leader, a better person, kind of like better at what you're trying to do because you're able to live with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. So I hear feeling it fully, paying attention to what it is. And then you also talked about leaning into the fear and still staying focused on the long term. I was
Yeah.
recently listening to an online talk on Insight Timer by Susan Sage, and she was telling the story of Joe Dispenza, who you may have heard about.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
and the power of belief, hit by a
yes,
bicycle, not going to walk again, and said, okay, thank you, but I'm going to use the power of my mind to heal my body. And I believe it was within 12 months was walking again, and
yeah,
sharing his story out. And I think about how personally it's been, as for many people, it's been quite a season this winter. We've had some family health stuff happening. Some of my biggest projects are on a federal freeze with funding right now. And I'm also working on launching this new course, which we've had in the works for a year and a half, about
right,
how to build community and building consensus and creating the future that you want. And so, Zikki, when you talked about articulating your vision, you talked about trust. You talked about trusting other people, but by continually articulating your vision, you're creating space for other people to know how they fit into that picture. You're not holding it all yourself. You're also relying on the culture and the community that you are creating to get there. You're recognizing that self-doubt comes up and that fear comes up, but you're continuing to be clear about what you want to create. So that's
right.
beautiful. I know
Yeah.
for me recently, it's been recognizing the fear. Like, yeah, fear's there. Oh, I've had these like projects I thought were a go, they're not. And recognizing the fear and say, okay, thank you, fear. Thank you, brain, for trying to keep me safe. We're still
Mm-hmm.
going forward here. We're still putting one foot in front of the other. This is where we're headed. And it's been that belief in so many ways that's been a real North Star recently. So I love that you're
Yeah.
sharing more about that.
And thank you so much for sharing on the Joe Dispenza. He's written
Mm-hmm.
that book where he talks about like your energies and how you can
Mm-hmm.
channel these energies to kind of just become a better self and visualize your desire and actually
Mm-hmm.
shoot for your desire and create the life that you want.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what?
Yeah, right? What? We don't talk about this every day. What?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's really powerful stuff.
it
Some of the
is.
things that, you can do through meditation, some of the things that you can do in just kind of how you look at yourself. Like there's one thing that I picked up from the book, which was like your different energy centers and
Mm-hmm.
how you channel your energy centers. And I was like, if I was just so close-minded, like, many years ago, these are things I'll just be like, you are out of your mind,
Right.
you know?
How is that possible? Right. But
Yeah, but these things literally do work,
mhm,
right? Like I keep on testing on myself. Like I'm about to sneeze, and I tell myself, "Nope, you're not sneezing," and it works. Like I'm like these small tests. It's different when you
uh-huh, yep,
start just trying small things that
mhm,
previously you would think that would never work.
yeah.
Is very powerful. So like if people have not read or heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza, highly recommend his works.
Absolutely, we'll include links, yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
The theme that I've been working with this year is relaxing into trust, and that was,
Relaxing into trust. Okay.
relaxing into trust, and so for me, that means not trying to control the outcome, still
Hmm.
showing up, still doing my best, trusting other people as well, but it's not a matter of pushing, it's a matter of ease and relaxing, still working hard, and one of the examples that Susan Sage was talking about of just trust is how do monarchs know how and where to migrate 3,000 miles, or
Right.
whales or birds, or these so many examples throughout nature about this greater wisdom, and likening that to Joe Dispenza's story. And there are so many things at work that we don't maybe fully understand. And so I
Yeah,
think
of
it's just a really great example. So
course.
I want to come back to you and your work and tell us a little bit more about what you're up to now. You've recently kind of shifted your
Yeah.
trajectory a little bit. Tell us about where you're going and why and what you're up to.
Yeah. So at the moment, I'm creating art
Mm-hmm.
on commission basis for
Mm-hmm.
people who want to tell their story through art.
Love it.
So think of yourself as an art collector, or let's say you're a big leader at some organization where no one really knows you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm creating art for these folks as a commission. And what I want to tell through this art is their story. So I'm a
Mm-hmm.
natural storyteller, and like if we sit down, I can come up with so many stories. We can go all day on stories. But
Mm-hmm.
most people realize that we don't have hundreds of years to live in this world. Like you're guaranteed the day that you're born, and you're guaranteed a last day in this world. And that's for each and every one of us. And once that day comes and you're gone, very soon after you're forgotten. So, in your legacy, how do you want to be remembered? Do you want to be completely forgotten? Or do you want to leave something for somebody to be able to tell your story in the future? So, I believe, if we do like a good piece of art that tells the story of this individual, every time somebody looks at this piece of art, regardless of if that person is here or not, will tell their story from their perspective.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Beautiful.
that's one thing I'm really focused on. That's something I enjoy doing. So I kind of do it uh in the evenings or over the weekends. But I love it.
Mm-hmm.
The thing where I'm placing a lot of my focus and the corporation I'm talking about is on climate sustainability,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we're planting giant bamboo, which is a grass, in on our farms, right? And this is to help with the community engagement. So, kind of showing them the benefits of having bamboo. But also, we know that if you grow enough bamboo, you get a lot of byproducts, which creates
Mm-hmm.
employment for them.
Mm-hmm.
But if we go larger and kind of build it at scale, this bamboo turns into like a carbon sequestration factory. Like it's
Uh-huh. Yeah.
essentially like it sequesters so much carbon, like per acre you can sequester up to 20 metric tons of carbon dioxide per year, right? So if you do this at scale, you're literally doing multiple things. Number one, you are creating afforestation and forestation. So like afforestation meaning like if there was no ecosystem, it was like a desert, you have now created like a little forest of sorts with the bamboo. But then in other places, especially in Kenya, a lot of trees, hardwoods, and things like that have been cut down for uses in furniture, manufacturing, and charcoal.
Mm-hmm.
So they've left no tree cover, and everything is kind of failing because of that. So by reintroducing bamboo in some of the areas where there's not a lot of like an ecosystem left, it's a way to kind of grow something that's going to help the community, but also create some benefits for the community because as the carbon dioxide is being sequestered, we can sell those as carbon credits, and a percentage of it comes back to the community to help with their education and their clean water systems, because these are the key areas that we've seen that we're very successful in, and we're able to track it and be able to report on it. So that way we can even show that transparently, this is how much impact we're creating in these communities. So that's a very big project that
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying it's a little bit, overwhelming to kind of deal with the change kind of going into this industry. But to me, I feel like it's something that I am purposely built to be successful in
Mm-hmm.
if I surround myself with the right people
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of keep myself learning to the point where I'm a specialist in this space because I've already
I love
been
that.
in the farming and I've been in the technology side, but now forestry, afforestry, community engagement are the things that I really want to grow in and turn this organization profitable so we too can kind of enjoy the benefits of the corporation.
I love that. And tell us how we can learn more about that amazing work.
Yeah, so my artwork, you can check that out at munyao.art.
Mm-hmm.
I blog frequently. I also do like daily podcasts. It's not really a podcast, like morning boosts, where it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Oh,
like
I
a
love
positive
that.
message every morning on
Oh,
YouTube and
awesome.
Instagram and TikTok. So Zikki Munyao for my handle on TikTok,
Mm-hmm.
and then Zikki_M on Instagram. And then for the climate sustainability
Mm-hmm.
piece, check out consumingcarbon.com.
Perfect. That's awesome. I'm so excited to see where this goes. Um, oh, there's so many threads I want to continue this conversation with, but um, we'll have more opportunities in the future. I always love talking with you. You've worked at different scales, the inner work, and you're continuing to do that. You just mentioned being in a space of curiosity and
Yes.
learning in this new work with carbon sequestration, community engagement. So tell us a little bit about some key lessons learned that you would like to share with others, or what do you wish that someone told you 5 or 10 years ago about the work?
Yeah, like if I'd known the impact of the work that you do internally
Mm-hmm.
on others 5 years ago, I would have been a huge asset for people during COVID by
Mm-hmm.
sharing, the positive stories that we're sharing now, right?
Mm-hmm.
The morning boost came to me through my sister, my late sister.
Mm-hmm.
And through COVID, for 4 years, she sent these morning boosts and impacted so many people that at her funeral, we had well over 1,200 people in person, and then about 800 people that went north of that on video, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a power to positivity that I feel like if 5 years ago I knew, I could have created so much more during COVID. But during COVID, I created a lot of art,
Mm-hmm.
so if I knew how to share this art with the communities better on the story behind each piece back then, that also could have helped a lot more for the communities that needed that positive encouragement. Because a lot of people during COVID were going through a lot.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of other lessons learned. It's like you can wish for something, but unless you literally do it, you're going
Not gonna go
nowhere.
anywhere, right? You gotta dig in. You
You
gotta dig
have
in
to
to make it
go.
happen. Yeah, and do
You
it
have to
scared.
go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if you're
it's
scared.
scary. It is
Mm-hmm.
so scary. I don't think there's anyone who will tell you I did
Yeah,
this thing because I was good at it.
right. It was
I
easy. I just felt like it, right?
Yes, if everything
100%.
was easy, then everybody would achieve every single thing they desire right away, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But when you go and you do the thing that you know you can do well and you know where you're trying to go with it, you got to start.
Yes.
That's it. You just have to start. I think a lot of people, they're defeated by just not starting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Start and go with it. So everything else will fall into place. You just have to focus on that thing and not overwhelm yourself with other things. And this thing will come together. So I am focused on consuming carbon. If consuming carbon falls and I fall with it, lesson learned. But
Mm-hmm.
in my mind, I'm turning consuming carbon into a high impact corporation that's working globally.
Beautiful. You're focused on it. You know what it is. And it's such wisdom in the just starting. It just starting scared because it is overwhelming until you just bite off one chunk and then refine it, bite off another chunk
Yes.
and then refine it. And you just keep going and you build momentum and you build partnership. But you also have a real sense of openness in the way that you talk about your work and you invite partnership and you invite possibility through that. And that's one of the things
Right.
I love about the way that you approach your work. So as
Thank you so
we
much.
get ready to wrap up, are there any
Yeah.
other thoughts or reflections you want to share with folks here
I
to
feel
close?
like everyone has more power than you think.
Hmm.
Like try to find your natural power, the thing that you are very good at, the thing that you enjoy the most, and focus on trying to make that something that you can do to kind of be the thing that turns into your everyday joy, but
Hmm.
that can also give you back in terms of revenue, some type of income. And then you turn your work into something that you truly enjoy. And for the rest of your life, you'll just be doing something fun to you.
Yeah.
It may look like work to others, but to you, it's the thing that you enjoy doing. And that's where I got into art. I can see myself at 100 years still doing art. I feel like it always turns my head on to a lot of good things. So I highly encourage everybody to find what it is that you enjoy the most and focus on it and try to bring that to be.
Yeah, well said. And it's also so clear when you talk about your art, the joy that it brings you and the energy it gives you for the other parts of your life and for engaging in other ways. And it's, yeah, so key to focus on that. It's
Yeah.
been such a delight to have you on today, Zikki. So thanks for joining the podcast. It's been great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. And, thank you for everything that you're doing for the community.
Absolutely.